What happened to the e-commerce revolution in Indonesia? TikTok e-commerce is no longer available in Indonesia. I have a seller friend who has millions of goods on the way to Indonesia, but TikTok is no longer available in Indonesia, so I'm not sure if he's going to be able to do it. What I am afraid of in Southeast Asia is that other countries will decentralize the e-commerce business, and it will be difficult and impossible to do so. It is only the Indonesian market that is still in existence, and it is only when it is chaotic that it thrives. Commencement. The government has formally suspended TikTok e-commerce in Indonesia, which means that TikTok e-commerce can no longer operate in Indonesia, so Indonesian consumers can't buy anything on TikTok, so they can only swipe it. Short videos, if you want to transact, then you have to jump to a separate account or to another e-commerce platform. The whole conversion is much less efficient. Now this friend of yours, what's the change? Yesterday, I received a message from a seller who has millions of dollars of goods on the way to Indonesia, but Indonesia's TikTok is no longer available, and the impact of this has been huge. This kind of broad brush light bulb, this kind of Amazon wind wave in Europe and America in the last few years has taught all the fast food industry that you can't put all your eggs in one basket. And Indonesia is just one of those places where you can't put all your eggs in one basket, but you can't put all your eggs in one basket, and you can't put all your eggs in one basket. In the case of TikTok e-commerce, it's a sweeping statement that Indonesia's TikTok has just started, and there aren't a lot of sellers on it, so I don't think it's as serious as Amazon's wind power was a few years ago. We saw a news story on the internet that said one of the biggest people in Indonesia was talking about e-commerce not going down, and it's also hard to figure out that he might think that this e-commerce is going to blow up into this kind of a big bad. He was referring more to the question of whether or not these very low-priced e-commerce vendors would be able to realize the future impact of Chinese companies on Indonesia through these very low-priced products. Why hasn't he done away with the Gapi Raga fight? He wants to ban e-commerce altogether. It's not realistic. It would have a devastating effect on the entire Indonesian economy. The Indonesian government will not ban e-commerce, but it will make more rules and regulations to make the whole market develop in a more positive way. What I'm afraid of is that other countries will follow TK as lead, and that's why Indonesia is the fastest growing country in the world, ahead of any other Southeast Asian country, and that's why I'm afraid that the country will follow TK's lead. The second point is that Indonesia has the largest population in Southeast Asia, around 300 million people, and accounts for more than half of the market share in Southeast Asia, and also has the largest trading volume. So, have any of your friends ever gotten anything from there? Like the results of, say, something like he can do over 100 million RMB in sales a month, whether it's TikTok or other platforms. But the overall opportunity in Southeast Asia is still relatively big, and in my understanding, some of the e-commerce platforms in Southeast Asia, they're not as big as TikTok. The profit margins in Southeast Asia are higher than those in Europe and the US, but the volume of e-commerce in Southeast Asia is not as big as that in Europe and the US. So can TK still do it? I think TK can definitely do it if the sellers are not as big as those in Europe and the US. And if the sellers are not as big as those in the US and the US, then can TK still do it? If he doesn't want to do Southeast Asia, he can go to the US. The overall figures are very good. The daily average in the US is already over $3 million, which is very big for a platform that's been online for less than a month. Do you have any friends who have a daily average of 0 orders or several thousand orders? I don't think so. I have friends who have a daily average of more than 0 orders, and we have our own Thailand, which is now more than 0 orders per day. Before that, at its peak, it was 2, 0 or 3, 0. The Thai market is definitely smaller than the US. I'm sure there are a lot of sellers in the Southeast Asian market this year who have no trouble getting a few thousand orders a day, or even 30, 0. What's your solution? First, you're still in the Indonesian market, but if you switch to other channels and sell through those channels, you can recoup your capital. And second, if you can only do TikTok, you'll have to consider the possibility of a new business. If you want to sell it in other countries such as Thailand, Vietnam, or through TikTok, you have to ask the logistics companies from Indonesia to other countries if the cost is higher than the cost of shipping it to Thailand. You don't even need to think about your products. Thirdly, you can just sell them at a low price to some offline white goods channels and then push them out of the market. Or there's also the possibility of waiting to see if TikTok will be resurrected in the future, and then you'll be able to sell your products at a low price. We think it will be resumed. In the future, TikTok e-commerce will be more in line with the direction that the decision makers want to operate, and he has also acquired more qualifications. I think he will be resumed. At present, the current situation is like this. A restriction that reduces all sellers to 0 may also mean more of an opportunity for chaos, the beginning of prosperity, and chaos as a ladder.